Buenas tardes. This is La Morena Libre on the mic. You are tuned in to Radio Feminista, straight from the border and Brownsville, Texas. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. for conversations, fresh perspectives, and topics that speak to the feminist in all of us. This is Radio Feminista only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station. And this is La Morena Libre on the mic. You are tuned in to Radio Feminista, again, straight from UTRGV campus in Brownsville, Texas. With me today is our co-producer, el Dr. Juan Jose Garcia. He's sitting right here. This week, we thought about introducing ourselves. Who are we, right? Or at least start that conversation, because those are always, to not make them so boring as a bio, right? Like, ooh, a script. Kind of, just talk about ourselves. Many of you already, if you're listening, tuning in, if you've tuned in the past, you know who I am. I am La Doctora Silvia Patricia Solis. I teach in the School of Interdisciplinary Programs and Community Engagement in the College of Liberal Arts. I've been there now for 4 years. I'm starting my 5th, and it's been a pleasure coming and serving here at UTRGV as a professor. I am from here. I'm from Bronzeville. I was born in Matamoros, Tamaulipas. And I moved over here with my family, with my mom and my grandparents, my aunts. We moved to Bronzeville. My grandfather worked over here, and it just facilitated the commute. When we were privileged to have citizenship, or at least they were. I had to go through the process. And then I was schooled here in BISD with amazing educators throughout my upbringing. So I was schooled in Bronzeville, and I have amazing friends and community here who have seen us through a journey in our lives, and who I've witnessed as well. So through theirs. So again, this is we came back. I came back after my PhD from the University of Utah to serve my community. We moved down here during COVID to start teaching down here, and it's been a pleasure. So now, Dr. Juan Jose Garcia.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. La Doctora Solis, or La Morena Libre, as she is known throughout the world. My name is Dr. Juan Jose Garcia. I also teach here for the school also.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually, I just got hired as full-time.
Yes, congratulations.
So I'm a full-time lecturer now. I have been teaching, actually, got lucky and had the privilege to teach as one-year contract lecturer for the past, actually, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's given me the opportunity to be involved with school, the university. Like a lot of you, my story is very similar, right? I was born also across the charco there, the Rio Bravo, or the Rio Grande.
The Rio Grande.
Right, in Reynosa, and like most stories, my father was a bootmaker. He worked in Mercedes, in Rio San Mercedes, which now used to be a big boot factory. Now it's kind of come with time. It's just a little smaller place there off the highway in Mercedes. But so he got this job, and was working for 4 years before I was born, and then 6 years after after my birth, the company actually was started sponsoring workers to give them residency, and so he was able to get residency, and then a year later, was able to give the rest, give residency to us. Back then, it was a little bit more simpler as far as immigration is concerned.
What decade was this?
So this would have been 70s. It would have been around 75, 76.
Okay.
So when probably a lot of students nowadays weren't even born yet. but and maybe even some faculty. Um, so we came over. We moved to FAR. So I'm from Hidalgo County. That's my stomping ground. I'm near to Brownsville, at least the past 4 years, more consistent or being, stomping around here. But like,
You're welcome.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, it is definitely different. A lot, not as crowded as Hidalgo County is, or McAllen, Far area. But but like I said, I was schooled in PSJ, Go Bears. Um, but and I mean, and my schooling was good. It wasn't great, I don't think, but but it did get me to where I needed to be. I mean, I'm a nerd in hiding, as I tell people. I use fashion so that people don't think that I'm a nerd. Not that that's a bad thing.
That's not a bad.
You
Those
know,
two can work together.
they can, but
You're
but there's always
stereotyping.
yes, in the 70s and 80s when I grew up as a Gen Xer, that was the stereotype, right? And you couldn't look like that stereotype. And some habits are hard to break. But I've been working on that. But still, but like I said, but but I was lucky enough to have teachers, right? My second grade teacher, Miss Hickman, set me straight from the very beginning. Wherever she's at, probably not around anymore because she was already in her 60s when I met her. That was over 20, well, actually more than 30 years ago. But I went to the military, which is what a lot of young men do, young women too, do from here in the valley, right? For me, it was more the financial, right? It's like there, of course, it's like I wanted to go to college. I knew that that was my end goal, but my parents didn't have the money to support that, and I really wasn't. Even if I got financial aid, it wasn't at that time. For whatever reason, my parents made too much money, so that was only going to get partial. So that means that they would have to pay or help me pay. One thing my parents and a lot of people, including my spouse, think they 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 not make fun of me, but they just kind of give me side eye. Is my parents never let me work while I was in high school. I never had a job
But
in
you
high school.
did
But then,
work.
I'm
We need to unpack
yeah,
that.
we need to unpack. But what I'm saying is, what the definition of work means for every other high school student, including you, right? Which was either at a fast food place or HEB or
In the service industry,
in the
yes.
service industry. I didn't have to do that. In college, I didn't have to do that either, right? Because I left to the Navy, came back, started my college career, but I got the GI Bill, so that allowed me, gave me the privilege of not having to have a real job, right? I worked part-time jobs here and there, but that was only, you know, that was only to make a little bit extra money. But even then, but that was more to help my parents. It wasn't for me because I had money from school, the financial aid and stuff like that. But then I left, got my PhD, also at the University of Utah. Came back. I have, and a lot of people, well, close friends of mine know I have a love-hate relationship with the Valley. I always say that, this is a place that made me, right? Because on both sides of the charco, but I always felt that it was also a place that kept me stagnant. So
That's interesting.
so for
Cool.
me, it's like
Understandable.
I have to, it's like I felt like I have to leave it in order to, I guess, say, not miss it, but just see what the possibilities are for me and now my family here in the valley, right? And so yeah, so we left. I've left. Like I said, I left the military. I left first time for a master's, and then I left again for a PhD. But every time I come back, like I said, I come back with a different perspective of what the valley can be, right? And that's where I'm at right now. So yeah, so for me, that's been my trajectory, and this, like I mentioned, love-hate relationship with this place. But definitely being in Brownsville is different. Um, there, there's not a lot
Do
to do.
do tell. Do tell.
You
How
know,
is it different?
there's not a lot to do. Um, there's, I mean, yes, the downtown is starting to pick up. There's other places, but, you know, but so yeah, but I mean, but again, at my age now, right? Maybe not going to the clubs is maybe not the thing that I'm looking for, but at least um, you know, just just places to go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, the one thing I definitely do not like from Brownsville is the fact that I have to go around all of Brownsville to get from one side to the other.
But that's the entire RGV.
No,
Yes,
no. Like if I'm in,
that's just
no,
not in
no. Sorry,
Brownsville.
if I go on McAllen and I need to get to the other side of McAllen, I can take 10th Street, 23rd, Second Street.
It is more of a
It's more rigged.
more rigged,
More,
yeah,
yeah,
more
more of
a grid.
a grid, right?
Yes, that the grid is different.
Here in Brownsville, I mean, I understand you all have,
The
the
resacas,
resacas, but even then, I mean,
which I still don't understand why San Benito. I hope somebody. I want somebody to explain to me why San Benito's called the Resaca City.
and
Is
they
it?
only have one as far
I
as I
don't
can
know.
tell.
I don't know how many they have. I want somebody to explain to me. Anyway, go ahead.
But anyway, but yeah, but it's just I have to get around. It's like I live by the airport, and if I want to go to the mall, it's like I have to drive either up all of Boca Chica or go across all of Ruben Torres to get to where I need to get to. There's no street that'll get me straight there. So, but again,
The details. Those are just
no, it's just me wasting gas and producing more um, fumes into the environment, which we that's a different conversation. But still,
Yeah. Yeah.
but anyway,
Okay. Okay.
but I guess I digress.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. But you're here. You're in Brownsville,
I'm
right?
here. I'm in
And isn't
Brownsville.
it funny, right? We let's say I think the first year or second year of La Hora Feminista, we invited Nancy Guevara. And Nancy, if you don't know her or haven't approached or seen her work, she is a wonderful artist. She is an activist, and she is also from Laredo. And in her discussion, she spoke about how she's hasn't been able to feel, even though she's lived here for a very long time, she still feels like an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if it's particular to I'm forgetting right now, and this is something I'm going to ask her. I'm not sure if it's particular to Bronzeville or if it's particular to the entire region, right? Do we make others feel like they're outsiders? Bronzeville, probably. I mean,
No, I think it's Brownsville.
I think it's
I think it is. I think it is Brownsville. Because the thing is that look, Brownsville is so centered. Like the city of Brownsville, even though it has expanded, right? You have your outer parts where they're building because there's no more space in the center. Um, but I mean, but it's like everybody knows each other, and literally, I
somehow.
mean, literally,
Yes.
everybody knows each other. Somehow, yeah, like you said, but and if you move up to the valley and stuff like that, I mean, I think that what makes Brownsville unique, and I will say that, and again, in this field of everybody knows each other, is the fact that you there is this divide, and I don't know if people would call it that, but it's like once you get out of Harlingen, right? There's nothing. You just have the highway between Harlingen and Brownsville.
Well, there's San Benito.
Yeah, but San Benito
En
is
Los
off. Yeah,
Fresnos,
but what I'm
en
saying is,
Olmito.
but what I'm saying is, if you're coming on the highway, right?
It's more isolated.
It's more isolated.
It's been
because,
isolated.
because there is about this I don't know, maybe like this 7 miles different in between Harlingen and Brownsville, right?
Oh,
Like
and I
that.
forgot Rancho Viejo.
Yeah, but anyway, but I call those the outer parts of Brownsville anyway. But so I think because of that, it's like this. It is a Brownsville. I mean, you could consider Brownsville like an island, like you do the island, like South Padre Island, right?
Well, and the thing is, part of that geographical, I guess, design, right, is that when for those that are or live in the Upper Valley, mid upper, right, they when you come down, you don't have to come to Bronzeville to go to, if you're, let's say you're going to South Padre Island You don't have to, right? You can get off in Los Fresnos. You can get off somewhere else, right? Mainly, that's probably Los Fresnos mainly, and then go to the
Yeah.
island.
Yeah.
So you don't have to come into Bronzeville. So I think that that creates, right, this, oh, you know what? I don't even know like I've heard people say, I don't go to Bronzeville because I just go to the island, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to say that's good or bad because that's not a place for me to place judgment on, but I think it has maintained a particular culture of
Mm-hmm.
what Bronzeville is, who it serves, who it invites, who it welcomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's what
yeah.
I mean. Because, like I said, because once you hit, you get into Harlingen, right? And it's like as you're on the highway, it's like there's a street that divides.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your Harlingen, La Feria, Mercedes, Westlaco, Donna, Alamo, San Juan, Far, McAllen, so on and so
Todos los
forth.
pueblitos
Right?
aquí.
It's like so. I mean, and sometimes I mean, unless you drive it all the time, right? It's like you sometimes forget,
Mm-hmm.
which one you're in, but they all. I mean, from the highway, they all look the same.
Well, Bronzeville, talking about home, right,
Mm-hmm.
and place and how it shapes you. I mean, Bronzeville, of course, I'm a product, right, of Matamoros
Mm-hmm.
and Bronzeville, that complex, right, um, and I I've often denied it. Because I write about this. It has made me feel both at home and also unsettled, right? So there's a complexity here that, it's for another day, another show, but there is a complexity here, at least for me, where I feel both inside and out, right? So and I'm not sure, you and I lived in Edinburgh for a while, and I think I've only lived in Edinburgh. That's the only other place I lived here. And it felt different because you don't know
Mm-hmm.
people. Not everybody knows you. In Bronzeville, you can go I go to HEB, I go to just anywhere, and I'll run into someone that knows either me, knows my mom, knows my family somehow, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
or you see on the news, or you see on Facebook, right? Or the degrees of separation it's much less here in Bronzeville than in the
Anywhere
anywhere
else in the
else, at
valley.
least.
Yeah.
And you've experienced. I mean, I'm not making this up.
Oh
You're
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's like it's yeah. Anywhere we go, I mean, here in Brownsville, there's always someone.
See.
Yeah, that like you said, it's either they know you, they know your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, and I
And
mean,
there's a beauty to that, and there's also, ¿qué dice? Pueblo chico, infierno grande,
yes,
right? You know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, because I mean, my favorite thing as an anthropologist, as an ethnographer, my favorite thing, my favorite observation of Brownsville is the fact that, and everybody always says this, if you're gonna be talking about someone, you always have to look around first if you're in public to make sure that it's not someone who knows that person you're gonna be
Sí, a
talking
ver si
about.
no hay nadie aquí sentado
You know,
escuchando, right?
exactly.
Okay, so this is you,
This is me.
and there's a lot there that we can unpack in the show, but I want us to talk about feminism,
Okay.
right? I want us to set the framework, right? The setting, the table setting for what this show is about, um, leaving it with some fluidity, but also making it a show where we not only invite guests to come and talk about themselves, what they're doing, um, but to also learn about what ideas, what how people are understanding feminism, um, especially what I call from the ground up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that we can see, understand our lives, the lived experience, and how it's part. Uh, it becomes part of a movement, even though we might not call it or stamp it or brand it as feminism, um, because we don't understand feminism or because we reject the term because of its historical, um, what's the word I'm looking for? The way it's been portrayed, especially by males or men. There's some people reject it, but they do the work,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're doing some form of it, and it's complex, right? So I want us to frame or to just start having these discussions around what feminism is as a theoretical framework, but also as a practice.
Mm-hmm.
So I want that to be the next segment because I draw a lot from, as you know, I draw a lot from bell hooks, right? She is, and I think, and I was trying to think today about why am I so in why do I follow? Why do I read and relate so much to bell hooks? And it's because one, um, she's she's an educator, right? She was an educator,
Mm-hmm.
and but not only as an educator, but as a scholar of education, right? So for me, she was teaching, right, about feminism. She wasn't just writing about it from a theoretical perspective, or she wasn't being dense or elitist,
Mm-hmm.
right? In her writing, she was bringing it down to a level where we could understand because she understood, right? The simplicity of theory and of learning and of education, right? Um, and how complex we are as a society, as cultures, that how can you bring a concept that has been chastised, right? And to people, for people to understand why or why it's needed. And not only that, but to help us understand that many of us are doing the work. And it's we're not calling it that, or maybe you're not calling it that, but you're doing it. And that's also important in her writing,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also important to call it. So I'm gonna play. We're gonna take a quick music break, so that we can then take a little quick dive, or just a little dive in this episode on feminism and pero a la bell hooks, right? Porque sí, that's important for me to ground our show, to ground our conversations, our thinking around this around her work in feminism.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
And to get us going, we're going to listen to Chavela Vargas, La Llorona. Yes, that's a beautiful song. And again, you are tuning in to to Radio Feminista with La Morena. And with me today is Dr. Juan Jose Garcia. So, we finished uh, talking about home, place. You were introducing yourself, talking about how you didn't work as a child or as a young man.
Young man.
Um, but, I disagree. And this is why I disagree, because domestic work is work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you did a lot of that growing up because you were the oldest, and you took care of your siblings and your relatives, right? Your cousins, and as we know, in our culture, in the society, especially within capitalism, heteropatriarchal capitalism, domestic work isn't valued,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, contrary to what you say, you did work.
Yes, but
Okay.
I did work, and like I said, but the thing is that what you just said, right, about this, the society that we live in, right, and that's why I mentioned when I would say that that I didn't work, my parents didn't let me work while I was going to school, and even through college, right, I didn't really have to work. Is the fact that the comments that were being made by my peers, right, was because of that context, right? The fact that
Mm-hmm.
domestic work is not seen as
Mm-hmm.
work,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not going out at for an 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or 12-hour shift, so it's not considered actual employment.
My first job was at McDonald's there on Four Corners
Mm.
in Brownsville. Yep. And I think I lasted like a year and I gained weight. Um, okay, so back to feminism. Before we jump into feminism, I want us to talk about theory, right? So what is theory, right? I get questions from students sometimes, like trying to kind of wrap their heads around what theory is. So just as a primer, just kind of like a basic understanding of theory. The word theory derives from the Greek word theoria, right? And I'm saying that in Spanish, right? But it roughly translates to mean contemplation or speculation. The way a theory, so to understand theory, it's a system of ideas, principles, propositions, right, designed to explain why something, such as an event or any phenomenon, takes place in a certain way, right? So it kind of creates, right? It creates a design, right? A set of principles or a system in which we can begin to understand why certain things happen, right? So feminist theory arguably falls under the umbrella of critical theory, which in general destabilizes, derails, disrupts what we understand as power and oppression. So I argue, though, that feminist theory stands side by side with critical theory and not as something that falls under critical theory. Um, because historically, critical theory has favored the theoretical underpinnings of men in the academy, right? And the with the institutionalization of feminist programs, of gender and women's programs in the academy, we have been beginning to see and document and archive so much work that has been developed by women before, right? Even before they were allowed to be in the academy. So, why turn to feminist theory or a feminist lens, right, in our work and or as a student, right? Why try to understand a phenomenon from a feminist perspective? Well, it helps us understand how people interact with and within systems and to understand how systems are oppressive and exercise their power, right? So, in feminist theory or a feminist perspective is interdisciplinary. So you can come in from any perspective, right? And feminist theory abarca, right? It extends across many disciplines. So then you can it doesn't have to work in isolation either, right? With other disciplines or in contrary to, right, or against. These are perspectives that are really important and are needed in research, in scholarship, right, in writing, in any type of work. Bringing in a feminist perspective can really deepen and help you understand systems. It can help you understand the culture and the structures that are in place that perpetuate power and oppression towards the vulnerable, right? In these systems. So it's a really important grounding and understanding of systems of oppression and matrices of power, right? So it considers also feminist theory considers the lived experience of any person or people, not just women, right? But it focuses on oppression. So dismantling oppression is is a core tenet of feminist work, right? So I draw heavily from bell hooks to understand feminism and systems of oppression. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with bell hooks, and she would write her name with lowercase. She was a feminist scholar and activist. She was born Gloria Jean Watkins in 1952 to working class parents. She grew up in segregated Kentucky. She received her bachelor's from Stanford University and was only 19 years old when she started drafting her first book, Ain't I a Woman, Black Women, and Feminism. It was published in 1981 after she received her PhD from UC Santa Cruz. Now, in her book, Feminism is for Everybody, Passionate Politics, which was published in 2000, Bell Hooks states, and I'm going to quote from directly from the book. I'm going to read it. Simply put, feminism is a movement to end sexism, sexist exploitation, and oppression. Now, this, and I'm quoting her, this was a definition of feminism I offered in Feminist Theory from Margin to Center more than 10 years ago. It was my hope at the time that it would become a common definition everyone would use. I liked this definition because it did not imply that men were the enemy. By naming sexism as the problem, it went directly to the heart of the matter. Practically, it is a definition which implies that all sexist thinking and action is the problem, whether those who perpetuate it are female or male, child or adult. It is also broad enough to include an understanding of systemic institutionalized sexism. As a definition, it is open-ended. To understand feminism, it implies one has to necessarily understand sexism, right? End quote. So for us to understand sexism a little bit more, I also want to bring another one of her works, which is it's a short piece that she wrote that's called Understanding Patriarchy. Right? In order for us to understand sexism, then we also have to understand patriarchy, right? Because that's the system in which sexism is, um, it's generated from there, right? It's born out of there. It's engendered. So patriarchy is the single, and I'm quoting her. I'm quoting Bell Hooks. Patriarchy is the single most life-threatening social disease assaulting the male body and spirit in our nation. Yet most men do not use the word patriarchy in everyday life. Most men never think about patriarchy, what it means, how it is created and sustained. Many men in our nation would not even be able to spell the word or pronounce it correctly. The word patriarchy just is not a part of their normal everyday thought of speech. Men who have heard and know the word usually associate it with women's liberation, with feminism, and therefore dismiss it as irrelevant to their own experiences. I have been standing at podiums talking about patriarchy for more than 30 years. It is a word I use daily, and men who hear me use it often ask me what I mean by it. Nothing discounts the old anti-feminist projection of men as all powerful more than their basic ignorance of a major facet of the political system that shapes and informs male identity and sense of self from birth until death. I often use the phrase imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy to describe the interlocking political systems that are at the foundation of our nation's politics. Of these systems, the one that we all learn the most about growing up is the system of patriarchy. Even if we never know the word, because patriarchal gender roles are assigned to us as children, and we are given continual guidance about the way we can best fulfill those roles. So, patriarchy is a political social system that insists that males are inherently dominating, superior to everything, and everyone deemed weak, especially females, and endowed with a right to dominate and rule over the weak, and to maintain that dominance through various forms and psychological terrorism and violence. That's a mouthful,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think that helps us understand sexism. It helps us understand systems of power and oppression. And it helps us understand why feminism is has to be understood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want us to talk a little bit about our engagements with. We have 10 minutes or less. So just briefly tell us how you as a man, right, as a man of color, um, came to start engaging with feminist theory.
Well, I guess for me, technically, if I think about it, I have always been engaged in learning through feminism from the day I was born. I was raised by the women in my family, right? And I was raised by my mother, my aunt, my grandmother, right? Who instilled in me this sense of uh, equality, right? That when it came to, in the case of the home, that there there was a hierarchy between parents and children, but there was equality in
Mm.
the work that needed to be done,
Yes.
right? And so, as I grew up, like I said, and especially started my academic career, right? I always feminism was always present, was always around. When I started looking at uh, my chosen career within anthropology, and I started looking at cultural anthropology, right? Looking at um, how systems interact with the individual, right, and how we as individuals interact with the systems. Feminism was present for me, right? I was always pulled to looking at all sides, right? Because I was reading the books that I was reading for anthropology, which are very patriarchal, very Western European centered, right? Um, that voice, like I said, that equality wasn't present for me, right? So then that's what I would go and seek. I wanted to find the literature, those writings that gave me the perspective, not just necessarily of women, right, but of the society as a whole, which is what I was being taught as an anthropologist that when we look at a society, we have to look at it as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
right? But for me, like I said, but once I really got into my research for my PhD, so my research is looking at women, right, and the spaces that women, in my case, there's mothers, um, not just were part of, but they made a presence in, right, which was the school. Um, but again, but looking at how, um, as scholars, sometimes we we go into research or whatever with questions, right? And one thing I learned from my PhD and being involved and really engulfing myself in especially feminists of color, right, is that we we're asking the wrong questions,
Mm.
right? Or really, we shouldn't go in there with any questions at all.
Mm.
We should just go in there and have conversations, right? And for me, that's one of the things that like really, like like that emoji where where the head explodes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Happened to me when I went into a community garden
Mm-hmm.
that had all of these women in there, um, you know, tending to the garden, but also showing their children not just how to tend to the garden, but giving them lessons of either school, right, or of home or of life. Um, and when I decided that I was gonna have the conversation become the questions that I was gonna ask for my PhD,
Mm-hmm.
it made it so much clearer,
Mm.
right? Instead of me saying these are the questions I have,
Mm-hmm.
can you answer them for me? Because then that that really didn't allow for just the flow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so for me that's all again I've always been engulfed in it, but really engaged in it. But it wasn't until
Mm-hmm.
I really started, looking into Bell Hooks, Patricia Hill Collins, Audre Lorde, and so many others. But mainly the ones that within education, right? Durness,
Mm.
that again that for me that what I just said, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are asking the wrong questions, or really we shouldn't be asking questions, just having conversations. When it really became um, more present,
Yeah.
or more in view for me, as to yes, everything that I do, that I imagine,
Mm-hmm.
right, is from there.
Yeah. And I guess it goes back to the fundamental, right, or I guess
Foundational.
foundational question we ask all our guests that come on to the show is, what does feminism mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've answered that question, right? To help us understand, right, that it's an engagement, um, and then to understand, right, how these how it's practical,
Mm-hmm.
um, right, as a not only as a theory, because sometimes there's this disconnect between what's theoretical and what's the practice, and there's a divide, right, and this goes back to positivism, and just a long, again, male dominating perspectives within academia that have often divide the logic, right, and the body. But in what feminism does is that it distorts, like it's dismantling that, right? It's attempting to dismantle that divide
Right.
between the lived experience and theory.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for you've answered that question, and I appreciate that, and I saw it, right. These women, I wasn't I appreciated your research because I was there alongside you, right, watching you and witnessing you engage, like you were friends with the women
Mm-hmm.
you that are part of your research, um, and they're leaders. They
Yes.
were leaders in their community,
Yeah.
and especially in a white state, um, and and they were serving not only they were, I mean, that was their priority is to be there for their children, right, in the school that their children were part of,
Mm-hmm.
but it was also about serving the community that their children were part of, right,
Yeah.
and because of their friends and the relations they built, and it was beautiful to watch, yeah, and it's been beautiful to know them as well. Okay, so we are almost done with the show. Are there any final thoughts about feminism that you would like to share?
No, I mean, well, I just want to, again, just like one final reflection, because again, going back to thinking about my trajectory, my life trajectory up to now, right? There was something that when I was doing my research, there was something that I read that um, there was a description of, when Bell Hooks passed away. A lot of people wrote and stuff like that. But there was one piece, and one of her an artist who wanted to took a long time for her to be able to, I guess in a sense, get past her grief of Bell Hooks being gone. But one thing that she wrote a piece, but one thing that she said, and I quote, she says is that, again, going along with what, are we asking the wrong question? But she ends her little piece by saying, how can we create our own horizons? How we surround ourselves. Um, there are images that reflect back to you something precious and true about the life you are living, or or life that you would like to live.
Mm.
And so I think that when I read that, right, again, kind of got cementing um, the works of Bell Hooks, right, that feminism is for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? Again, and for her, feminism was not just a fad, a passing thing. It was a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, whether we as a society recognize it or not, we live feminism. It is a long life commitment. And I think that as long as that if we start um, breaking away at this stigma of what it
Stigma.
means,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that image, that horizon for everybody would definitely be a lot brighter.
Oh, yeah. And it benefits everyone.
Yes.
Everyone. Okay, everyone. Well, there's our second show, right? Thank you for those of you who tuned in. I really appreciate the company. Thank you for spending this afternoon with Radio Feminista. Again, I want to thank Dr. Juan Jose Garcia for being here and for helping me set the schedule for our next guest, which is Hilda Ledesma. If you have not met Hilda or encountered Hilda in Bronzeville or beyond, you're missing out. She is the founder, CEO of Revival of Cultural Arts, and it also goes by Roca. Um, I'll, we're going to have her next week as a guest. I'm super excited. I've known Hilda since we moved here, and I've slowly and gently have gotten to know her. She's a wonderful person, and she is a pillar of the community, to say the least. She does a lot of work to really bring the arts into our community. So I'm really appreciative. I appreciate her work quite a bit. So looking forward to that. So tune in next week so you can listen and learn from Hilda Maria Ledesma. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for a great show. And again, I'm La Morena Libre. See you next week. Same time, same love. Until then, stay loud, stay proud, and take care.
And stay feminist.
There you go.